So in today's video, we're going to be going over 15 questions that I think you should ask any wedding videographer before hiring them. So the first question is, what are the deliverables? Obviously, it's important to figure this out, but the deliverables are what you are actually getting. Some videographers do really long, several hour long traditional style edits. Others do highlights, and there's a huge range in between. So it's important to figure this out, and I would certainly start with that. The second question I would ask is how many hours are covered, so how many hours are you going to be there? And some videographers charge by deliverable, which we just discussed, and others charge by hours, so it's important to figure this out. Me personally, I cover up to 10 hours, which I think is plenty to get the required coverage in order to make my highlight films. Now the next question is, who will be showing up to film my day? So some companies use affiliates or associates, or basically these are subcontractors, and they'll hire someone to shoot your day. This isn't a bad option, but please just make sure that you know who's coming to film your day before your day actually arrives, because you just want to make sure that this person has the proper credentials. The next question I would ask is, what is your turnaround time? So it's important to figure this out just so that you know ahead of time and so that you're aware. Different videographers offer different turnaround times, and some, like myself, even offer a quicker processing service, which is just an additional charge and you get your films faster. The next question is whether or not drone footage is included. Some charge extra for this, so it's definitely worth asking about. Another question is whether or not the delivery is going to be in 4K or 1080p. 1080 is the standard HD resolution that we know. Some videographers charge extra for 4K. I do this, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask me why, and I'd be happy to discuss it. Now, the final question in this section is regarding music licensing. You are technically supposed to license music to use it professionally, so it's important to ask whether or not your videographer does that. If having popular songs is something you value, you may be able to find someone who does this, but definitely check ahead of time. Now, these next questions are getting a little bit more technical, but they're definitely worth asking about. Ask your videographer how many cameras they use. I use 3 cameras during a ceremony, and that's for a few reasons, but the primary reason is because I want to have at least 2 stationary cameras in case one of them fails. I'll always have something to cut back to, and this gives me the option to have a roaming camera, and then I can get creative shots with that. You could get away with 2 cameras, but in my deliverables, I deliver the full ceremony just unedited, and having an extra safety camera is extra peace of mind, and it's also just an extra nice angle. The next question is regarding audio. You want to ask your videographer what methods they plan to use to capture the audio. The best bet is a lavalier mic during the ceremony and pulling the sound right out of the DJ board at a reception. From my experience filming dozens of weddings, this is your best bet, and this is the industry standard for capturing the audio. So it's important to ask about, because I think that audio is the most important part of a wedding film. The next question is very technical, but you might want to ask your videographer if they shoot log. Log is a process in which you shoot a lower contrast, lower saturation picture in order to get the most dynamic range, which is getting very in the weeds. But basically, it's a method that Hollywood uses to shoot their films, and it helps us get the best image quality. I'll go ahead and link a article to what log is if you want to learn more about it, and I'll be making a future video soon, so I can link that as well. But yeah, ask about that if you care. But yeah, generally, more experienced, more technical videographers are going to use this, so it's kind of a good question to vet people. And the final question on the technical side is, do you use lights? Oftentimes as a wedding videographer, I'll find myself in very adverse lighting conditions, so I end up having to use lights to help enhance the image quality, because lower end cameras, especially video cameras, do a really good job mimicking what we see in Hollywood. They really have their limits, and those limits are especially pushed when you're in low light situations or high contrast situations. We want to be able to have the tools in our toolkit for when we're faced with a adverse lighting scenario. So certainly ask about that. Again, this isn't required to shoot a wedding film, but more high-end wedding videographers are going to go ahead and use these tools. Now the final 3 questions, I'm just going to go ahead and rapid fire these because they're all very similar. Ask your videographer how many seasons they've been working. Ask them if they've worked with blank photographer or other vendors that may be important for your day, but specifically the photographer. And finally, don't be afraid to ask if they shot at your venue before. Shooting at a certain venue gives you insight into what works and what doesn't work at that venue, and if you're weighing between one person or another, this may be the deciding factor. And finally, I think some people people might feel uncomfortable getting asked how long they've been working, but personally, I feel that if you're gonna spend several $1,000s on a videographer, it's worth your time to ask them. And I personally don't mind if anybody asks me that, so I hope that others would feel the same. So those are the 15 questions that I would ask a videographer before hiring them. I hope you found this valuable. If you have any further questions or if there's anything I missed, definitely let me know in the comments. If you found value in this video, feel free to subscribe for more content like this and throw me a like. It helps the algorithm and costs nothing. I appreciate your view, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Cheers.